I thought I'll tell a story about from Ramayana. So I referred the book Sita from Devdutt Patnaik. Well, he happens to be my favorite author. Where am I? Okay. So he happens to be my favorite author. So I referred his book. Now, I wanted to bring something new to you people, something that is not very well known. That is why I read stories that are not very popularly told otherwise. We are all very familiar with Rama's brothers, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrughna. Did you know that he had an elder sister also? Rama's sister was called Shanta. When Dasharatha married just Kaushalya, and Kaushalya delivered a baby girl, Shanta. After that, after a long time, Kaushalya could not bear any children for Dasharatha. So Dasharatha goes to Kaikeya and asks the king to give his daughter's hand in marriage, Kaikeyi. But the king says, you're already married, and the son, who will probably be born later to that wife, will become the prince and later the king of Ayodhya. But Dasharatha is very keen on having a baby boy, so he is willing to give any promise in haste. So mindlessly he says, no, I promise you the son that will be born to me and Kaikeyi will become the king. That's a promise from me. So that is enough. A king's promise will be an honest one and they will definitely live up to it. So he marries Kaikeyi, and after a few months or years, they too do not have any children. And Dasharatha goes on to marry Sumitra, and they too don't have any children. So Dasharatha is now crestfallen. He thinks probably I will not have any son to carry over the legacy, my family, and take over the reins of this kingdom. That's when Romapada, his neighboring king, comes to his help. He says, I have a problem and I think you can help me. So I'm going to refer to those names from that book here. He says, I have a problem of drought in my country. Now, this drought is not any ordinary drought. There is a hermit by the name of Rishyashringa. Now, Rishyashringa is a hermit and it is very difficult to please him. There is no woman who can marry him. I do not have a daughter. I have sought help from everybody to lend me their daughters or sisters' hand in marriage so that this fellow can be pleased. Now, if this fellow is pleased, then there will be some rains. Indra will release some rains from the heaven and my problem will be solved. I do not have a daughter. Can I adopt your daughter, Shanta? So by now, Shanta is a young enough woman to get married, and Dasharatha agrees to it. And he says, this hermit Rishyashringa, I believe, is the cause for your problem as well. I think he will help you have children if you allow me to adopt your daughter. So he gives his daughter in adoption, and then he says, I want you to somehow lure Rishyashringa to marry you. So she goes to the hermitage where this hermit lives. He is not an ordinary hermit, you see. He's a person with human body and the antlers of a deer. Now, why did that happen? That is because he is the son of Vibandaka. Vibandaka was a sage who understood how life functions, how the food that we eat transforms into energy, becomes all that it becomes later. The flesh, the food later also converts into seed. And in humans, that is men who carry the seed that has the ability to procreate and develop and reproduce more. He started focusing on this more and he understood that if he could not release that seed, if he could hold that seed longer, if he could convert that into energy, he will gain supreme power. Now, the moment any sage starts doing any tapasya, the first person to panic is Indra. That is because Indra is a very, very fearful guy. A feared. Did I use the wrong word again? A guy who is always in fear. That is the correct word. Perennially in fear. Even though, let me go back a little, when in the Sagar Manthan, all the nice things come out of the ocean of milk. He has Kalpastri, he has Kalpavrich, he has everything that he can ask Shamantamuni. He has everything. But still, that fellow is always in some constant fear that he will lose his kingdom. He will lose complete control. So the moment any sage starts doing penance, he will send apsaras down to lure them. Similarly, he sent one apsara to Vibhandaka and she lured him. Despite his control, Vibhandaka releases semen and he's immediately angry about it. That very moment, a doe comes and eats that grass, the leaf on which the excretion was there. And it becomes pregnant and delivers this person, Rishyashri. And that is why he's born as a human, but with a deer's antlers. He's a male. After this incident, Vibhandaka becomes extremely angry and he decides that there should be no sense or no effect of any feminine thing in and around his ashram, hermitage. Not even a hen, not even a peahen, not even any female worm can pass his hermitage. If that happens, they just burst into flames. That is because his son Rishyashringa keeps reminding him of his failure. He wants to raise his son without any sense of a woman's presence. So no woman is having any kind of confidence to pass by that hermitage, and that is why this king has this problem. And so Shanta now comes to this hermitage. She cannot cross that line and she cannot enter the hermitage. So she waits all day for a couple of hours when Vibhandaka leaves his ashrama to go and perform his morning duties, get his shower in the river and everything. So during that time, she would sing songs outside the hermitage and disturb Rishyashringa from his penance, from his meditation. So Rishyashringa looked at this woman as something very unique, a creature that he had never seen. Who is this? What is she or what is this? He wondered. So she would tell him, if you can step out of your hermitage, I can tell you what I am or who I am. So they start meeting every day. And she tells him about what she is. She's a woman. She's very different from what he is. And that together, if they united, they had the ability to bring life. He had the power, the seed in him, and she could create life in her womb. She says things that he has unheard of, things that his father had kept away from him. So suddenly he falls for her. He starts taking a liking for her, attraction for her, and decides to marry her. One morning when Vibhandaka is not in the ashram, he chooses to hold her arms and walk out of the hermitage. Now that Shanta is able to lure him and make this hermit a householder, his anger or all the energy that he had held within him is now released. And that is when it starts raining in Romapada's kingdom. The drought is brought to an end because now Indra is happy. Now, what has all this got to do with Indra? The moment in any of these stories, in all of these stories, the common thread is whenever any hermit starts performing a serious penance for hundreds of thousands of years, seeking for something, seeking for powers, seeking for extreme power like Ravana did, he would become very, very insecure. Indra would become insecure. He would do a lot of things. So has happened in the case of Vishwamitra. He sends Menaka to break his penance. So Indra keeps doing all these things in every hermit's life. So after that happens, Rishi Shringa, he is now a householder. He understands the problems of Dasharatha. He is the only one who knows the mantras to invoke and please all the gods. He knows which mantras to utter to please which gods, and he then arranges for a yajna. Yajna has to be performed by a yajaman, and he says, because it is you who is seeking sons, Dasharatha, you have to perform this yajna. And so they start performing this yajna with all the mantras invoked through the ghee and all that fire. That is how the food and all that the devas and all the gods seek. They are now full, they're completely satisfied, no hunger. They bless Dasharatha with a magic potion. The magic potion, he gives half to Kaushalya because it is his daughter born with Kaushalya who was able to make this happen. He gives half the potion to Kaushalya and half the potion to Kaikeyi. Now Kaushalya feels pavam for Sumitra, so does Kaikeyi. So from their respective portions, they give half each to Sumitra, and that's how Rama, Lakshmana, Shatrughna and Bharata were born. So Bharata was born to Kaikeyi, Lakshmana and Shatrughna are twins born to Sumitra. So that is how the sister, the least of whom we have heard, Shanta, we know about his brothers. We know about the sacrifice Lakshmana made for Ravana by walking along with him to the forest. We know about the sacrifice Bharata made by not ruling the kingdom directly, by keeping Rama's footwear on the throne and ruling the kingdom until Rama comes back after the 14 years of Vanavasa. We know all about the brothers, but the sisters' story or the deed that she did to bring Rama in first place, to birth of Rama in the first place. Shanta's story is not very well known, and that is why I liked that in Devdutt Patnaik's book, which I wanted to share with you. In most of the stories in all these mythologies, I don't know whether it was the storyteller, that is Vyasa and Valmiki in the first place, or the people who told these stories later, were they somehow very patriarchal, that they just left the stories of the women, their contribution aside, and it was never retold. And that is how we don't know many stories about these women and their powers, how they could do what they wanted to do. So this book, Sita, is written from Sita's perspective. Even though it is told to be from Sita's perspective, I find that most of it is all the stories that we've known as it happens. And it is as told or narrated by Hanuman. Now, Hanuman actually does not want to let go of Rama. Now, Rama is a human. Any avatar has to come to an end. Today is Ram Navami, is Jayanti, but we saw about his birth, and we'll also see about how his life comes to an end. So Rama knows that it is now time for him to end his avatar. So he knows that in Hanuman's presence, it will never happen. Hanuman will never let go of Rama. So what he does is, he accidentally, he drops his ring. He says, I dropped my ring and it fell inside Patala Loka through this crack in the earth. Will you go and fetch it for me? So Hanuman transforms himself into a small honeybee and then goes inside the earth. As he keeps going inside the earth, there are huge serpents coming his way, and they are all from the Nagaloka. And he keeps squashing them as he keeps going, and then suddenly he finds himself surrounded by thousands of serpents, and then he says, what is it? I'm here on a purpose. I'm here to retrieve the ring of my Swami. So then the chief of the Nagaloka, the serpent Vasuki, comes and he asks, what is it? What brings you here? It is my Lord Rama's ring I seek. Then Vasuki says, oh, go, take a look at that mountain. There's a huge mountain there. You'll find your ring there. When Hanuman goes near the mountain, he sees that it is no ordinary mountain. It is a mountain of rings. So many thousands and thousands of rings, and they all look exactly the same, like the ring that Rama just dropped. What are you wondering? Asks Vasuki. He says, I don't know which one my Lord Rama just dropped. They all look the same. That is because every time he wants to end, he drops the ring down here A monkey comes looking for it, and up in the Bhuloka, he ends his life. Then Hanuman asks, why? Why is it happening again and again? It is cycle. It is cycle. It keeps on going again and again because this Treta Yuga is not just one yuga that has come. It is thousands and thousands of time. This is going to keep coming until they learn that fear and faith have to coexist. Fear is constant, but faith is a choice, says Devdutt Patnaik in his book. It's a wonderful line that he has written there. Fear is constant, but faith is a choice. And faith is what we are told in all these stories. And despite that, when we are in trouble sometimes, the first thing that we question is faith. The first thing that clings to us is fear. So we have to accept that fear is going to be there all the time. It is going to stay. It is the fear that actually, it is the faith that actually makes the fear become a weaker power, and the faith gives us the power to overcome that and continue. So that is something that it keeps telling, the faith stories of faith in Rama's Ramayana, where the stones are written the name Rama and they are thrown in the ocean, and that makes the stones float. That is the power of faith. So time and again in all these epics and mythologies, it is faith that our ancestors wanted us to remember, that they wanted us to have an anchor on something which will keep us going when we have some doubt or any confusion. So that's the story, my dear friends. I wanted to share with you story of Shanta rather than story of Rama today with you both. I hope you guys liked. Were you familiar with the story, or would you like to add something? I would like to hear from you.